Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Professor Isi and my dearest friends. In this special occasion, we are from the second group and we would like to present our discussion about speech act. Before we start our discussion today, I would like to introduce my team. My name is Amida Fatwati as the first speaker and the moderator, and I will present about the basic concept of speech act. The second speaker is Fajriati, who will present about the types and the classification of speech act in details and the difference between direct and indirect speech in speech act. The third speaker is Herimini Wijayanti, who will explain more about the use and the rule of felicity condition in speech act. And last but not least, there is Anjar Pangestu, who will explain more about the use of speech act in context. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we know that pragmatics is a branch of linguistics which shows a study about how context contributes or conveys the meaning. Pragmatic itself consists of diaxis that we have learned last week, consists of speech act that we will explore more today, consists of conversational implicature, cooperative principles, and politeness principles. Why we have to learn pragmatics? Because pragmatics teach us about how to use language in context and the way in the speaker produce and understand the meanings through language. It can be mentioned that pragmatics will concern about the speaker's intended meanings, assumptions, purpose or goals, and the kinds of action that will be delivered by using language. Since language is our pivotal things in our life, we cannot separate the language from our human life, either spoken or written. Because we know that by using language, we can express our feeling, idea, and also our thoughts. It's supposed to make the best result for communication in using language. It means that we will produce the communicative act, or called as utterances of the speaker that commonly represent verbal communication. Since people are supposed to make the best result for communication, people need to use speech act to assist their meaning or idea to the listener or to the hearer. So, what is speech act? Speech act is developed by the British philosopher named Austin in 1962. His theory and his concept then followed by his students named Shirley in 1975. Shirley is an American philosopher. They try to explain us more about speech act, that speech act focus on the study of intended meaning of the utterances both of spoken and written. It means that by using speech act, it will show the most significant things in speech act itself, that the message of the speaker intention, so the listener can understand a message from the speaker. The importance of using speech act in assessing our communication skill is that speech act is a concern with the speaker's communicative intention in producing an utterance, and it is defined by the purpose for which the speaker used the language. As a matter of fact, we use speech act to show our statement. For instance, we are making statement or question. We are giving commands or order. We are giving refusing, complimenting, and apologizing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about speech act can be divided into three parts. The first one is locutionary act that show the literal meaning. It means that what the speaker is said shows the meaningful linguistic expression. For instance, if a person says, "It is hot here," so the speaker feels really hot in his place. And the second part is illocutionary act that show communicative intention about what is meant by the speaker. When I say it is hot here, so it might have two possible meanings. The first one is an indirect request for someone to open the window, or an indirect refusal to close the window because I am cold. And the last is perlocutionary act is about the pragmatic effect that shows the speaker is expecting to affect listeners' behavior. For instance, when a person says, "It is hot here," so he or she hope that there is a person who will open or close the window. Thus, the theory of speech acts is the theory how the speakers accomplish their intention using utterances. We know that speech act can be used in direct and indirect speech because the utterances can be delivered by using a declarative, an interrogative, and an imperative. So we know that there are three kinds of direct and indirect speech. The first one is declarative as statement, interrogative as question, and command and as request. In speech act, we also have felicity condition. Felicity condition means that the effectiveness of using speech act. For instance, when a speaker is making a promise to another person, he or she has to fulfill the condition of the hearer to have something to be promised. And the speaker will have the intention to fulfill that need. It means that both of the speaker and the hearer will get their intention. As a matter of fact, both of the speaker and the listener have no reason to feel aggrieved. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is very interesting that we can analyze the people conversation by using speech act. The conversation is usually can be found in movie, debate, comments on social media, namely Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even YouTube. Those are the excellent examples of speech act that can represent the complicated case of speech acts in order to find out what the people do by saying something. As a matter of fact, we use speech act that related to our performance in saying something. It can be considered that speech act refers to what is done when something is said. For instance, warning, threatening, promising, and requesting. On the other hand, the meaning of speech act itself are the basic units of linguistic interaction, such as giving a warning to, greeting, applying for, telling what, and confirming an appointment, based on Griffith's statement in 2006. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the next presentation will be delivered by Fajriyati. Thank you.
We move to the types of the speech acts. According to the British philosopher John L. Austin in 1962, there are three types of speech acts. The first one is a locutionary act. A locutionary act is the actual act of uttering or the actual words uttered. Example, please do the dishes. The second one is an illocutionary act. An illocutionary act is the social function of what is said, or the force or intention behind the words. By uttering the locution, please do the dishes, the speaker requests the addressee to wash the dishes. The third one is a perlocutionary act. A perlocutionary act is the resulting act of what is said, or the effect of the elocution on the hearer. This effect is based on the particular context in which the speech act was mentioned. Please do the dishes would lead to the addressee washing the dishes. In other side, American philosopher John L. Searle in 1976 classified an illocutionary act into 5 categories. The first one is declarations. Direction of it, words change the world. In this case, the speaker causes the situation. The second one is representatives. Direction of it, make words fit the world. In this case, the speaker believes certain conditions to be true. The third one is expressives. Direction of it, make words fit the world. In this case, the speakers feels certain way. The fourth one is directives. Direction of it, make the world fit words. In this case, the speaker wants certain situation. The fifth one is commissives. Direction of it, make the world fit words. In this case, the speaker intends certain situation. And here is the full explanation about the categories. The first one is declarations. Declarations is a type of illocutionary act which brings a change in the external situation, such as blessing, firing, baptizing, bidding, passing a sentence. Example, you are fired. By saying that someone is fired, an employer causes or brings about the person's unemployment, thus changing his external situation. The second one is representatives. Representatives is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker expresses belief about the truth of a proposition, such as suggesting, putting forward, swearing, boasting, and concluding. Example, no one makes better pancakes than I do. The third one is expressives. Expressives is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker expresses his or her feelings or emotional reactions, such as thanking, apologizing, welcoming, and deploring. Example, I'm so sorry for not helping out in our group's projects and letting you do all the work. The fourth one is directives. Directives is a type of illocutionary act in which the speaker tries to make the addressee perform an action, such as asking, ordering, requesting, inviting, advising, and begging. Example, please close the door. The fifth one is commissives. Commissives is a type of illocutionary act which commits the speaker to doing something in the future, such as promising, planning, mowing, and betting. Example, from now on, I will participate in our group activity. Direct and indirect speech acts, structure and function. There are relationships between 3 structural forms: declarative, interrogative, imperative, and 3 general communication functions: statement, question, comment, or request. Examples: Number 1. He plants an olive tree. The structural forms is declarative and the communication function is statement. Number 2. Does he plant an olive tree? The structural forms is interrogative and the communication function is question. Number 3. Plant an olive tree. The structural forms is imperative and the communication function is command or request. Difference between direct and indirect speech acts. Direct speech acts. Whenever there is a direct relationship between a structure and a function. Example, you wear a seatbelt. Declarative, and the function is a statement. Do you wear a seatbelt? Interrogative, and the function is question. Wear a seatbelt. Imperative, and the function is command or request. Indirect speech acts. If the relationship between the structure and function is indirect, e.g., a declarative used to make a request. For example, it's cold outside can be interpreted as a request to close the door, even though a declarative is function is to make a statement, but in this case, a declarative used to make a request. So between the structure and function is indirect.
In this occasion, I would like to explain about felicity condition. Felicity condition is referred to the effectiveness of speech act use of the speaker. Austin said that in using speech act, one has to fulfill certain conditions regarding the act that is being uttered. There is an example of felicity condition. I pronounce you husband and wife. In this case, this kind of utterance is usually used by a priest or any other religious leader to pronounce a marriage between a man and woman. This kind of utterance should be brought upon the wedding in a for instance church. Moreover, without the special privilege of a priest or any other individuals given the special privilege to marry people, this kind of utterance will not be recognized as an appropriate use of speech act or it has a different intention. Besides, there are some rules of felicity condition according to Searle. Searle states that there are some more detailed rules concerning felicity condition for its illocutionary act. These rules mostly regarding with psychological and the beliefs of the speaker or hearer, and each one of them has to be fulfilled in order to create a felicitous act. There are the rules of felicity condition. First, the person and their circumstances must be appropriate. For example, I pronounce you husband and wife. That is my previous example. It means that the utterance is usually used by a priest or any other religious leader to pronounce marriage between a man and woman. Then this kind of utterance should be brought upon the wedding at church. And the second, the act must be executed completely and correctly by all participants. For example, the utterance I do. Related my previous example, before a priest had said, I pronounce you husband and wife, the groom says his fool, and the bride says, I do. It means that the bride completely understand and agree about the groom's word, and this word supposed to be in the wedding moment. And the last rule is the participant must have the appropriate intention. For example, maybe I'll see you at the office at 3. In this case, these utterances can be analyzed that the man in doubt to meet his friend in the office at 3 because of word maybe. The hearer doesn't put his first, it doesn't matter. Finally, if the first two of these conditions are not satisfied, the act will not be achieved and will misfire. If the third of this condition doesn't hold, then the procedure be abused.
Now we move to speech act and context. Talking about speech act, it cannot be separated from the context. We have to pay attention to the context to understand what a person is talking about. And what is context? May 2001 stated that context is about understanding what things for. It is also what gives our utterances their true meaning. Knowing context means knowing what is meant by the speakers. In addition, Levinson, 1983, said that when a sentence is uttered, more has taken place than merely the expression of its meaning. So, when someone is talking about something, it can mean something else, something that is not the same with the utterance he or she says. For example, here I have two examples of conversation. The first is between teacher and student, and the second is between friends, Rizal and Naval. Let's see the first example. This conversation takes place in the classroom during teaching and learning process. The teacher asks the student, "What are you laughing?" And the student's response is, "Nothing." The teacher here is not really asking why the student is laughing, but the teacher simply asks the student to be quiet, to be silent, and pay attention to the teacher. It is different from the second conversation between Rizal and Naufal, even though it has exactly the same utterances, but the meaning is different from the conversation between teacher and student. The meaning of Rizal's question here is like, "What's funny?" or "Is something wrong with me?" So even though they have exactly the same utterances, but different context means different meaning. I have another example. There is a conversation between teacher and Tono as a student. Let's assume that Tono is coming late to the classroom, and then the teacher asks him, "What time is it?" If he answers it is 9:30 or something, I believe the teacher will kick him out. It is not what the teacher meant. The teacher is not asking the time, but the teacher asks him why he is coming late. Now let's assume another thing. During learning process, the teacher asks the student the same question. This question means like, "Do we still have some time? Or is our class will be over soon?" So, different context, different meaning. That's how context influences the meaning. Hymas, 1974, proposed 8 components of context, which is known as speaking. S is for setting, P is for participant, E is for aims, A is for act, K is for key, I is for instrumentalities, N is for norms, and the last G is for genre. Now I will explain them one by one. Setting. It refers to the time, place, and circumstances of a speech act. So it's about when or where the speech act or a speech act takes place and how is the circumstances. Participant. It includes the speakers and the audiences. So it's about people involved in a speech act. Ends. It refers to the goal or purposes of a speech act. Act. It refers to the sequence of a speech act that makes up the event. Or in other words, it is the sequence of a speech act to get a chance to speak up. Key. It refers to the tone of a speech act. Instrumentalities. They include the channels used to perform a speech act like method of communication, form of speech act, either spoken or written, language, and dialect. Norms. They include social rules that manage the event and the participants' action and reaction. And the last, genre. It is kind of speech act like whether it is story, speech, or casual conversation. So those are some elements to better understand of a speech act.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is our presentation today about speech act. As we know that by using speech act, we can know the form of direct utterance, we can know the purpose of direct utterance itself, and know the kinds of direct utterance which can be used to make or create a good communication in our daily activities. And for the next session, we will open question and discussion session. Thank you.